Hours from now, the U.S. will be on the verge of the longest government shutdown in American history. But already, some 800,000 workers are seeing this, a big fat zero in their paychecks today, the first pay period since the shutdown began. And millions more are directly impacted. The families of these workers, the contractors who haven't been able to work, families who, like 3 out of 4 Americans, live paycheck to paycheck, who are worried about paying rent, paying the mortgage, paying for groceries, for medicine, for gas, daycare. They're the ones worried and fearful today. Meantime, airports at risk, food inspections at risk, America's credit rating, the work of the FBI, I could go on, national parks closed, filled with trash. But here's a fact, folks. This is an American embarrassment. And I want you to keep this in mind. This is a self-inflicted problem, a problem made by leaders who are playing politics. And if that's not enough, the Senate is gone. Many went home as workers struggle. So the bottom line, many federal employees are working without getting paid, while many senators are getting paid but hardly working. With me now, one of those hundreds of thousands of federal workers who did not get paid today. She is Jacqueline Maloney. She's a furloughed IRS agent and mom of 2 high school students. Jacqueline, thank you so much for being with me. And let me just start with the big fat goose egg that you got today. I mean, when you looked at that, what's that like?
It's disheartening, to say the least, to think that the services that we provide for the American people seem to be of so little value, that we as employees, as civil servants, are valued so little by Congress and by the rest of America, frankly, that we would be used in this way.
Do you feel worthless in the eyes of the government?
Some days I do. It's sort of like going through all the stages of grief. At first, around the holiday season, it was very easy to just be in denial and think, oh, this is one of those shutdowns that will resolve itself in a day or 2 days. And then I can remember, on New Year's Day thinking, well, I'm sick, my daughter's sick, we need to go to the doctor. Oh no, is my insurance any good? Is anybody making premiums? What do I do? And sort of going into grief at that point that I don't have my job to go to. I'm not able to serve, which was the reason I came to the federal government in the first place. And as the days have turned into weeks, you almost get to that point where you're a little angry. So yeah, I do feel a little underappreciated.
Bless you. Tell me about, you mentioned going to the doctor. How is this affecting, I want to know about the little things, from how this is affecting your cold to your credit.
Well, it is affecting everything. As I said, I've been sick. I don't want to go to the doctor and spend even the money for a copay. My daughter came to me when school was ready to start back here in Atlanta, and she said, Mom, I don't have to have a snack. Excuse me, it's very upsetting. And to call my creditors, I have a very strong credit score. I like to believe I'm a very conscientious person. To call them and say, is there any way I can skip this month's car payment? What happens if I don't make my mortgage? I had to go to the physical therapy service that we use and say, we're not going to be in, we have to stop this service. And it's a result of the shutdown. It's important for me, as I let small businesses and merchants that we do business with know, it's not the quality of their services that is causing me to have to withdraw my support. It's the withdrawal of support from me that we just don't have the money.
I'm still back on your daughter. How old is your daughter?
She's 15.
She's 15. And how do you explain to her what's happening? And obviously she understands, for her to go to you and say, you don't have to pay for a snack for me.
Right. It's very difficult for both of my children. My husband is a school teacher here in Georgia, so we're both civil servants. But him being a school teacher means that I am the primary breadwinner in my family, and my children are aware of that. They asked me, Mom, are you going to have to find another job? What's going to happen? Is there any way, that you can find other work while this is out? What can we do? So it's very scary for them. It's a very stressful time for my children.
And to hear that most of these senators left Capitol Hill already and apparently don't have to report back to work till 3 o'clock on Monday. What do you say to them? How do you feel about that?
I would beg both houses of Congress, I would beg the American people to please look around and understand that federal workers, we have a face, we have families. We might be your neighbor, your best friend's mom, your aunt, your cousin. We're everywhere. We're a very large part of the American economy. And it hurts everyone when we're not allowed to do our jobs.
It's emotional for you, I can tell. It's
Yes.
emotional. You're at the point, 21 days in.
Very much so. I value my job. I value what I do for the American people. I took a significant pay cut to become a federal employee almost 10 years ago. I was very excited. February 2nd ought to be my 10-year anniversary with the government, and I might not be on the job to celebrate that.
Jacqueline Maloney, let me say thank you for your 10 years of serving this great country, and we look forward to you going back to work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That makes me so angry. The U.S. official, a U.S. official I should say, says the Trump administration is actively examining using billions of unspent dollars dedicated to disaster relief to build this border barrier. It would be part of the president's declaration of a national emergency, an option that is still alive at this point. Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican, South Carolina, he's now advocating for Trump to do that now that funding talks have again broken down. But during the Obama presidency, while opposing his executive order on immigration, Senator Graham and Republican leader Mitch McConnell said this is about a president going too far.
This is wrong, it's irresponsible, and will do damage to our efforts to fix a broken immigration system. This is a tremendous presidential overreach. I will try to defund the effort for him to go it alone. We will challenge him in court.
Imposing his will unilaterally may seem tempting. It may serve him politically in the short term, but he knows it will make an already broken system even more broken. And he knows this is not how democracy is supposed to work.
Joining me now, I know. I'm so angry after talking to Jacqueline. Let me just bring you all in. CNN chief political analyst Gloria Borger and Elena Plott, White House correspondent for The Atlantic. I mean, it is laughable, Gloria, you know, when you listen to these guys from a couple of years ago, but then you hear someone like Jacqueline with these two kids, with a 15-year-old daughter saying, Mom, I don't have to have a snack, because she knows her mom, the breadwinner, isn't getting paid. And you hear these grown men playing politics, totally hypocritical. And to that I say, what?
Right. I mean, where you stand depends on where you sit. And last time, they were sitting in the minority. Now, this time, they've got the president as a Republican in the White House, and they're gonna support him on this. I mean, I'm old enough to remember in 2014, when we had congressional elections, the big thing that Republicans were talking about vis-a-vis Barack Obama was the so-called imperial presidency. You remember that?
Yes.
This is an imperial president who wants to govern by fiat, who doesn't want to consult Congress, who wants to go around Congress and go over Congress's head. Well, here we are now with the government shutdown, and what are they talking about? They're talking about the declaration of a national emergency, which would go around Congress and go over Congress's head. And I might add that there are some Republicans who say this isn't a good idea. They don't like the idea. They're being consistent about it. But there are lots who say, well, it's the only option left, but they need to look at those tapes.
Well, yes, but they're also thinking, where can we get money? Where can we get money? Let's go to people who are still hurting in Puerto Rico, in Texas, in Florida, in California to build this border wall. Eliana, what does that tell you about how dug in this president is? Elena.
Well, I think what we have to remember ultimately is that this shutdown is all based on politics. And Brooke, you just had on somebody like Jacqueline Maloney. I think it's very difficult for federal workers to understand that largely this is not about, I think, what the American people perceive as an actual crisis at the border, but rather a handful of Republican senators and congressmen and the president himself scrambling toward the end of his second year, realizing that he has made no strides forward forward on his key campaign promise. So when you look at it that way, that this is all, keyed into 2020, as with everything seemingly in Congress, not about legislation, not about compromise, I think that's really disheartening for especially federal workers today, those 800,000 who have no paycheck today.